This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs. You don't need talent to be a great photographer. I'm gonna explain to you why I believe this to be true. Now, 6 years ago, I made a video with this exact title, and I talked about how I came up as a portrait photographer without having any experience with a camera prior to the age of 23, 24. I never had a creative bone in my body. I never took a photography class. I never cared about being an entrepreneur or doing anything creative. I pretty much only cared about cars, how fast my car was, the Honda days, girls, video games. This is what I cared about. I picked up a camera, a Canon T2 one day, just to start another hobby. And from that point on, just triggered something in me. I fell in love with photography, and I dedicated all of my free time for a year or two, literally all my free time, to teaching myself lighting, composition, posing, all the things with portrait photography. I mean, I sat there, I was a security guard for a school. I sat there with diagrams. I'll go to the computer lab, print out diagrams, sit there and just study lighting diagrams, go home and practice all the things that I read and I learned. And it's a lot of hurdles to overcome, feeling like I was never a creative person, like I never had an interest in this photography world. And I started to make a name for myself on YouTube. But the past couple of years, I feel like I reached a plateau as a portrait photographer. I just wasn't inspired anymore. You know, I think with the rise of, or how Instagram changed and social media, how social media ended up becoming a business for me, I started to feel pigeonholed into only shooting portraits. You know, I'm the kind of person, I have FOMO for everything. When I see other people killing it in cinematography or killing it in this or killing it in that, I want to be able to do that too. But because of social media, because of, you know, we feel forced to post the things that people know us for and that get likes and comments, and the things that we know people watch us for on YouTube. I just felt pigeonholed. I felt uninspired. Not that I didn't like portraits, I didn't like shooting portraits anymore, but I wanted to expand. I felt if I'm talking about camera gear on YouTube, I want to be able to use the camera gear in every kind of situation. As someone that's already so you know, as portraits is my thing, I feel like I'm pretty good at it. It's extremely intimidating to go into another style, another niche, and look like a noob, look like a beginner. But also comparing myself to others, comparing myself to all these newcomers. This is all these new creative people on the internet doing some really cool stuff. And I'm like, I feel like the old guy still doing the same exact thing, shooting just one thing, one type, one style. And I don't know, I kind of hit a breaking point the past couple of years. I said, I am going to branch out. I'm going to learn how to do other kinds of photography and do it at an elite level. I should have warned you that I was going to ramble a lot in this video, but where I'm trying to get to in this video is why I believe 2024 was the most transformative year for me personally, and why it reinforces my belief that you don't need talent to be a great photographer. Now, in 2024, I went into sports and wildlife photography with absolutely no knowledge or training. How did I do it? That's the question. How did I do it? I think that sharing this with you can possibly resonate. I think there's something to learn from it. I truly believe that, for one, being humble changed everything for me. And not saying that I'm a humble, I feel like I am a humble person, but when it comes to photography, this is something that I pride myself in, that I feel like I am good at. Going into sports and wildlife, I had to become a beginner again. I had to ask questions. I had to look like I didn't know what I was doing. Because at first I didn't. At first, when I had the privilege to shoot MLB baseball, I used to go in there and I wanted to just fit in with everyone else. There's all these guys, they all look like they know what they're doing. They're looking at you like, who are you? I wanted to appear like I belong. So I shot how I shot, and I shot whatever I thought needed to be shot. I know the game of baseball. I'm just like, okay, this is what I think I have to shoot. But then I realized that my shots weren't looking like the ones that I really, like the people that I kind of looked up to and looked up to their work. I'm like, my stuff don't look like theirs. Like, what are they doing? So this year I went in and I asked more questions. I was there like a sponge. I didn't care if I looked like a beginner. I was there absorbing all the information. A couple of days of just listening and absorbing changed everything for me when it comes to sports. I feel like my work changed, elevated to a whole new height, taking all the things I knew about portraits, incorporating it with sports. And I was like, I blew myself away at the kind of work that I was putting out compared to where I started. Wildlife photography. I went to Africa. For the first time, I did wildlife photography. And again, prior to leaving to Africa, I asked a ton of questions. And I went out there and I feel like I crushed it. And I'm really hard on myself, but I feel like I did pretty damn good. This is why I want to double down on the expression, you don't need talent to be a great photographer. Because at the end of the day, I feel that it has more to do with the drive than the talent. All my life, I felt like I never had that creative intuition. And I always use my peers as an example, like Pierre Lambert. The man has, when I shoot with him, he has a creative intuition. He has a way of just seeing the world a way that I don't see. And I always feel in a way inferior to someone like him in a creative space, because the man, it just comes natural to him. Me, from the beginning, I felt like I had to work a little harder to become more creative. And I feel like you can learn how to be creative. You can learn. I not the creative intuition, but if you look at enough creative things and study creative things and just learn how to work your brain to get to that point, I can learn how to take creative shots. I do feel if you work hard enough. Like, think about it like this. I have ADHD, and most of the time I have to read, if I'm reading a book, I have to read that page twice just to really understand it, because usually the first time I read, it just kind of goes in and out, right? But there's people out there that can read that book, that page one time and understand it, completely comprehend it. Now, I may have to read it twice, but I am going to read it twice. I have to work a little harder, and that's just the name of the game. But I think that if with drive and work ethic, you truly can achieve anything. And I don't want that to sound cliche, because, they say that for everything, but it's not like the NBA, for example, right? You can have the best coach and you can have the best skills, but if you don't have the physical attributes of an NBA player, the chances are you're never going to make it to the NBA. There's very, very, very few people that have done anything like that. But physical attributes play a big part in that. With photography, that barrier is not there. It's just not there, and there's just truly no excuse. I feel like I can have all the excuses in the world, but I didn't let that become a factor in anything. I felt like I wasn't creative. I learned how to be creative. I learned that I have to work a little harder to be a little bit more creative, or develop that mentality, or develop that vision. I had to overcome this killer social anxiety and learn how to fake it. I had to, it's still to this day, I meet models. You think that, oh man, he's got it all figured out. Man, anytime I meet a model, I still have that anxiety meeting anyone new. All those barriers and all those things that could have stopped me from doing, or even putting myself out there on YouTube. I still, when I press record on this camera, I still feel this immense pressure. I don't know why. But even through all of this, I feel like my drive to want to become better, want to become somebody. I have this irrational fear of becoming irrelevant, building this whole YouTube thing and this brand, and it just becoming irrelevant. I'm very proud of it, and I have a drive to keep it alive, and I want to become better, and I want to grow with the times. That drive is what got me here, and is what's continuing to allow me to grow. And I feel that anyone out there in this field, in the creative field, there are going to be days where you feel like you're not good enough. There are going to be days where it just feels absolutely daunting, but I'm telling you, I am living proof that you don't need the talent. You need the drive. You need the work ethic. And you can argue that every which way. Now, if there's one thing that isn't arguable at all, it's not finally pulling the trigger on getting a website through Squarespace. Now, if you've been looking to start a website, blog, or even an online store, what are you waiting for? It's about that time. With Squarespace, you can secure your own custom domain, and then you can create a professional looking website quickly and easily. And when I say that, that's one of the best parts about it. You need zero skills when it comes to coding and graphic design. One of the newest and coolest features is called Design Intelligence, which now it helps you design your site that's unique to you using AI technology. Follow that with the SEO feature that Squarespace offers. You're gonna have an easily searchable, high-performing website. And if you wanna, let's say, start a side hustle, you can start an online store like I did and make passive income while you sleep. Don't forget, if you use the code Manny, you will get 10% off your first purchase. The time is now. The link is below. Okay. As I was watching this video back, I realized that I didn't give you an example of what hard work looks like when you're trying to improve as a photographer. Hard work, that term is just overused nowadays, right? It's not like a regular job where you put something in, you get something out right away. This is definitely more of an investment, which in my opinion is just that makes it even harder to do. So what did I do? So I think what I did was to saturate my brain with information, with ideas, right? Remember I told you I wasn't a creative person. Well, I saturated my brain. So what I did was I read books. I read a lot of different blogs, and then I usually read them over again so that the concepts stuck in my head. Pinterest is a really big one for me. So Pinterest is really easy to go down a Pinterest rabbit hole and save a lot of ideas, and exposing my brain to all these different concepts and lighting ideas and then break those images down in my head, and just seeing and exposing my brain to a lot of different work helped me with thinking of ideas and being creative. And I could take this idea, I've seen this at one point, and I could use this for this. And I think it's better than Instagram, because Instagram will take you down a rabbit hole of like comparing yourself to others, because you're seeing the likes and you're seeing the comments, and you're comparing yourself to other people. Pinterest is a little bit more where you take that part away, which is why I love Pinterest. But also watching YouTube tutorials, a ton of them. There's a ton of free information out there. There's a ton of talented people out here making videos on YouTube. So I dedicate a lot of time to watching YouTube tutorials. Now, the thing is that with all of this information, you also have to practice. You got to practice. You got to put in the practice that no one sees. Okay. The times when you're just sitting in your living room and you have a camera in your hand, you bust out a light and you start just taking photos of things, and or practice, test shoots, ones that you're not paying, not charging for. All of these things, it deposit to the bank. And over time, I'm telling you, your ability to problem solve when you have an issue that comes up, and every little experience will go a long way. Now, the crappy part about this whole thing is that I can tell you this, but what usually actually happens, or what happened with me, is that, progression as a photographer is not, you can't measure it. It's not measured in a linear way, as in, you don't just get better every single time. You get better very slowly, but a lot of the times you're going to ebbs and flow. Sometimes you're going to feel like you failed. Sometimes you feel like you're getting worse. You're regressing. This is part of the growing pains of getting better. There are going to be times where you fail a little bit, but all in all, it's experience, and just got to keep pushing yourself to really to get better, to want this. And that's my definition of hard work. For sports photography, I looked at a ton of people's work. I watched a lot and read blogs and examined photos and what makes this photo interesting, what makes this photo. Same thing with wildlife. That is my definition of hard work. Now, I think I'm done rambling for 2024. I know this video is a lot longer than I wanted it to be. But I think it was important to add that. And also, I'm sorry, this is my last one. I can't help it. Watching this video back, I'm watching myself talk. And of course, I hate watching myself on video. It's cringy as hell. But when I'm talking, I'm like, I'm such an objective person. I look at everything and I try to think about it. I'm looking at what I'm saying. I'm like, well, I could already see the comments that I'm going to get on this video and the people that don't agree with me, and that's fine. A lot of this information is, again, very subjective to me and my journey. But I also think truly that if you're out there and you think that, oh, that's not the case for me, I get it. But you guys don't understand. The people that know me in real life, they know, the people that have seen me, like my parents, they've seen me when I was younger, and all the things that I was into and not into, and my strength and weaknesses. Like, I feel like I got to a point. I would have never predicted that I would have been this driven and this motivated in my life ever, and got to this point, and that's why I truly believe anybody can do it. So going into 2025, I want you to, stop with the excuses. Okay? We all have excuses. We all don't play that game. 2025, I need you to kill it. If you want to do something, put in the work and do it. That's all I got.